Working now. Okay, so right now, is anyone against? Councillor Conger, there is. Councillor Kiley. Start your debate.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, this is fairly self-explanatory in respect of I think it's important that all councillors see the comments or the summary of the consultant's report that would normally go back just to the CEO Performance Review Committee, and this motion is simply about making all councillors aware of the comments or the summary of comments obtained by the consultant, so that we could all assess or see how the CEO is performing on an annual basis. That's as simple as that, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Johnson is the seconder.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, this motion is quite important because although the report, I believe, the information is actually available to councillors regardless of whether they are on the committee or not, it's not something that is confidential to the CEO Performance Review Committee. It's one of these documents that tends to get overlooked by councillors who are either not on the committee or are relatively new and don't realise that this is happening. So, councillors, for that reason, I think that, that this motion needs to go ahead. We need to get this information out to the whole of council. Everybody needs to see it, and yeah, it would be great if everybody contributed. But we're not asking for any big change here. We're not taking anything that's confidential and giving it to someone who shouldn't have it. Everyone in the room is entitled to have the document. At least any of the councillors are entitled. It's just a procedural change. It's just you know, the wheels in motion. It's who gives what to who when. That's all it's about, nothing more than that. So it doesn't really change anything, except to make it easier for the newer councillors, such as some of the people are perhaps not here tonight. So, Mr. Mayor, that's my reason for supporting this motion.
Councillor Congren is Speaker against the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. I am opposed to releasing any form of document that is written in confidence to any executive or CEO performance review. I guess the words were, I didn't do it because I didn't think I needed to because I already knew the CEO was leaving. There was an extension made in time for that to take place, and I know that I was away overseas when I got the email from the Mayor, and I wasn't going to sit into a cabin on a cruise ship filling out a CEO performance review, but I did fill it out when I got back and sent it in, knowing that the deadline date was the 28th and then it was extended. To make comment on Mr. Mayor, I just find this unusual that you don't need to know what is live streaming, councillor. Sorry, I don't. Was it intent to put me off track or something? I really don't know.
Councillor Johnson, I don't think you need to go online to find out. I'm sure you've adequately informed us.
Yeah, I apologise for that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Some manners would be nice.
Thank you. The indication of the councillor's comments a moment ago, it's easy to be overlooked. Well, it's not easy to be overlooked. It's sent out to every councillor, and every councillor has an obligation to fill in the documentation. Now, if you want to share that documentation with each other, please do so. But I don't want my comments, which are my private comments, to the CEO, given to every councillor in this room, and or shared outside of this building, as it often does with correspondence and emails and documents. So I'm going to oppose it in the fact there's no need to do it. And we just continue on with how we're doing it.
Thank you. Councillor, Speaker for the motion.
I've got a question.
Councillor Catalano?
Yeah. So at what point, I mean, I am new to this process, so at what point does the council get to know what the results are of the survey?
Well, it's not the result of the survey. An item will come back from the CEO's performance review for consideration by this council.
Okay, and when does that come back?
CEO's performance review met this afternoon. A report will be prepared for council, which I'd suggest will probably be the April council meeting.
Okay, and does that, what kind of, does that have the results of the survey in it?
Doesn't have the details of the survey, but it has comments on the performance keynote. You were here last year, I think, council, when we had an audit.
Yeah, but it wasn't really I didn't actually know what process of what we were going through, but now I've done the survey.
Okay, you'll have a report to council.
Yeah, okay.
Not
Then.
just individual councillors' comments.
All right then.
Thank you. Okay, you can speak.
Yes, thank you. I think council does actually employ the CEO, and I think that council basically needs to maintain its oversight over the CEO's performance, and I do believe that should be all of council, and I kind of feel somewhat offended by the view, or by views that actually that there's any mistrust amongst council members that confidential information would be actually passed on to others outside of the members of this council. I think that is actually quite offensive, and actually that would actually not happen. So it is the council that employs a CEO. The council should maintain oversight over the performance of the CEO. Confidential information should be made available to other members on council. What have we got to be afraid of regarding each other than to know whether other councillors share our views or don't? In fact, it's about sharing of information and communicating with each other in a different kind of process. And I think that actually enhances the work we do. So I really think that it's actually inappropriate to block any kinds of communication between councillors, because I think that on the basis that they can't be trusted, I think that is a very negative way of approaching other council members, elected council members, who share with all other councillors the oversight of the CEO's performance, and therefore the oversight of how the City of Swan is actually managed and run. And I think it's in the best interests of our ratepayers that we're elected to serve, that each of us as elected members fulfil our duties and be able to access that information so that we can actually do a better job for our ratepayers and for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. Speaker against the motion? Councillors, I'll rise on this occasion. We have a councillor-elected committee called the CEO's Performance Review Committee, and the role of that committee is to access information provided by our councillors on a survey basis. That survey goes out every year to every councillor, and it is part of every councillor's role to participate in that process. There is no excuse for being new on council, or I'm too busy, or otherwise. And yes, it is an important process, but I find it a little bit hard to believe that such an important process only gets a 60% uptake among our councillors. Year in, year out, with the exception of this year, both the mayor, previous mayors, and I know in the role of acting when former mayor was away, chased councillors to submit those forms. This year we didn't do that, and the result was still the same. But the responsibility of the CEO's performance review is to analyse the data we get, compare these CPIs and how they stack up, and report back to council and provide council for that input. That's what that committee's role is, elected by the members in this room. So there's no need now to bring all those comments back to council, especially given that a third of council didn't bother to participate in a process they're obliged to do. So on that basis, I can't support going further with this motion. That being said, Councillor Coley, I'll ask you to close the debate.
Thank you, Mayor, and I thank you for raising the issue of the 60% uptake of councillor responses. Councillors, I suggest that the 60% uptake is probably because we feel, or some people on council maybe don't feel that they're part of the decision-making process, and therefore they may not have submitted some sort of review of the CEO's performance. So by approving this motion, you would get a better uptake, I believe, because we would all share in that information. And to Councillor Johnson's point, we all have access to the information anyway. It's not like it's going to be squirreled away and kept in a vault for only a small group of CEO Performance Review Committee members to see. We all have the access to that information. All it is about is making it a process whereby all of that information gets delivered to councillors. I was somewhat offended too by Councillor Congerton's point that we would be releasing in confidence material to somebody outside of council. We all have access to that information. I don't believe any of that information has been leaked in the past, and if it has been done, it would have been done by somebody on that CEO's Performance Review Committee, not by other councillors. But I have no knowledge of anything like that happening. We are a board, we're a committee. We have the oversight responsibility to employ the CEO. That's one of our tasks, apart from overseeing many other things and making decisions on council. When this report comes to council, we all have to make a decision on it. The CEO Performance Review Committee report will come to council. And what better way to make a decision if we have the raw data there instead of an abbreviation of what might have been said or not been said? It's not that we don't have access to that information, but I just think we will make a better decision and give better feedback to whether it be the current CEO or the future CEO. We'll be able to give better information back. We'll be able to give better information because we will have access to other people's comments and see how other councillors have rated or what sort of credit they've given to the CEO, the sitting CEO. So I suggest we all get access to the raw information that's come back. We all have a role to have an oversight responsibility in employing the CEO. And as I said, as Councillor Johnson pointed out, we have that access to that information anyway. We can just ask for it. It doesn't. So the idea of it being releasing in confidence material is quite ridiculous. In fact, we all have access to that information, and I don't see anybody having a need to release that information to the public. So I implore you to vote for this motion. I think it gives us...
Councillor Coley, that's your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll put the vote. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Motion is lost. That takes us now to what was item C3.5, which is the recruitment process of the Chief Executive Officer, and Councillor Congerton.
Councillors and Mr Mayor, in the folder there is a recommendation. Do you want me to read this out? Is everyone happy with what's in there?
Just a change, Councillor, which would be paragraph 2.
Paragraph 2, which is in bold, appoint the current CEO Performance Review Committee as the recruitment and selection panel.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Lucas.
Amendment?
Okay, I'll hear your amendment.
That point 2, appoint the current CEO Performance Review Committee and other interested councillors.
It's contrary to the motion, I think, Councillor.
No, it's not actually. It's well within keeping.
Well,
And other
sorry,
interested
Councillor, that's my
councillors.
ruling.
Beg your pardon?
I believe it's contrary to what the motion is.
I
because it's
don't
asked to
believe
appoint
it
a
is so.
Well, that's
I'd like
my
to put
ruling.
it
You
to
can
the
object
vote.
if you wish, but
Well, Mr Mayor, I move that your ruling be discarded because it doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it's not contrary to that motion.
I'll tell
Actually,
you what
it's
we'll
an
do.
addition to that motion.
we'll ask the seconder, the mover, if he's acceptable.
No, Mr Mayor.
There you go.
Well, I'd like to put a motion that it is.
Right, can I have a seconder? We've got a seconder. Okay. Do you want to debate it, Councillor, or just put it straight to the vote?
I'd like to debate it. Oh, there.
You'd like to debate it? Open your debate.
Good, thank you for that. Councillors,
Sorry, Councillor, I'll ask you to sit. I've got that out of order.
yes.
Councillor Conger, you're the mover, so you'll need to open the debate. My apologies.
Debating the amendment.
Oh, sorry, yes, you're right. Thank you, Councillor Lucas, yeah. So, yeah, Councillor Callanan-Carron.
Thanks for that.
Actually, Mr Mayor, point of order. Surely we do have to open the debate before we do the amendment.
No, the Deputy Mayor is correct, yeah, I lost track. So, yeah, Councillor Callanan, we're talking about the amendment.
Talking about the amendment,
Yeah.
which is an inclusion of and other councillors. The first point I want to make is that the recruitment process for the CEO of the City of Swan is a matter of enormous public interest in the community, and we really do need to have a process that's rigorous and well thought out. And the main thing is that the CEO Performance Review Committee, as the name suggests, is not a recruitment committee. They've got no special qualifications to recruit. It is a committee that has been voted in to review the performance of the CEO. So that means that other councillors who aren't in the CEO Performance Review Committee have just as much qualification to actually be involved in this process, the recruitment process of the CEO. Now, the thing is that there's diverse views on council, and actually that is one of the strengths of this council, because it reflects the diversity of views of the ratepayers that all of us elected members.
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
All right, I'll hear your point. Just take a second.
I'd just like to raise something very quickly. We're all members of the same community. We all have different points of view as well. So, that's not... Anyway, thank you.
Not really a point of order, really, but Councillor Callanan, carry on.
I was just stating a fact that there's a diversity of views on council, and that reflects the diversity of views out in the community. That reflects the diversity of the views of those ratepayers that have voted each and every one of us councillors in onto council. And currently, it would be great to have as much diversity on the recruitment process panel as possible. So I say, council, we should go for diversity and not be afraid of it. It's only going to enhance the work we do. The second point is that if there are interested councillors who are prepared to give their time and commitment to this process, then it's only going to enhance the process for councillors who are interested to be involved. I think that all interested councillors should be involved in the process to be able to reflect the views of their ratepayers. For instance, we currently have no Midland Ward councillors on the CEO Performance Review Committee, and in fact, it's that view from the Midland Guildford Ward, which is a large constituency of ratepayers, actually won't be involved in selecting the CEO, and this is actually going to be a shortcoming.
Councillor, I'm going to call you to a point of order there. This whole council will be involved in the selection of the CEO, because the final decision will come to this council to select
Can I just
successful
please?
applicant.
Thank you for that, because I'll address that now. I mean, in fact, we're entering into debate.
Well, no, I had to correct you.
Yeah, well,
you were making a
actually,
wrong statement. So
I'll just
carry on, because you've got about 15 seconds left.
Okay. Well, what council is going to get is a report, and in fact, we won't know what's happened in terms of the actual recruitment process because that will be confidential, and we'll just be given a report, which is basically a selection of shortlisted candidates, and in fact, that is not being involved in the recruitment process. That's just yaying or naying a process that actually councillors haven't been involved in. The other councillors outside of the CEO Performance Review Committee haven't been involved in.
5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seconder?
Question, Mayor.
Seconder, Cascola, yes, a question?
In respect of the wording, it suggests that the committee would do the recruitment and selection of the CEO. That's the way it's written. Can you advise there, please?
Well, I don't believe so. It'll work with the consultant. If you read the rest of it, the first item will be for the panel to consider an expressive interest from various recruitment agencies, and that'll come back to council as a first report for council to make a decision on who that recruitment officer will be. Then that will go. They'll go through as a normal recruitment agency would do the advertising, do the shortlisting, do the interviews, initial interviews. Then that'll follow through. Every council will be involved in 4 different selections, including the final interviews of the successful candidate, to make that decision. So the panel itself will not be making any decisions that council don't get involved in.
Still not clear to me. It still suggests to me that they would be involved in the selection of the CEO in the way it's written.
Well, Councillor, you were given a flow chart that shows you the process right back down.
I'm aware of that.
I think you'll be pretty much aware that that's not the case. Councillor Johnson, I think you were the seconder.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Congleton's motion actually just sort of changes the English, the phraseology, so to speak, in the motion. And but my issue with this is that this is basically the officer's recommendation, but it was sprung on us at 3 days' notice. Now, because the meeting has been adjourned and resumed, we've had a few extra days. But it's very unusual to get something so important that we only get basically 3 days' notice. So I put my alternate motion in, I think, about 9:03 on the Monday morning, just after I saw it. So first of all, that surprises me. But moving on, I think there is a need for consensus in selecting the CEO. And I think that interested councillors should be involved with the CEO Performance Review Committee on a voting basis. Councillors, we're going to have to get a CEO that is acceptable to everybody, just about everybody on this council and everybody out there in community land. And it needs to be someone who has the experience and expertise to deal with the issues that are facing us right now. And some of them are really quite serious. And that's why I'm an interested councillor and I want to be involved in it. Councillors, there's a serious risk here. If we end up setting criteria or not identifying suitable candidates that are not acceptable to the broad majority of councillors, where we have a consensus that we have the right shortlist and then the right candidate, there's a risk that that CEO will not be supported by the majority on council at some point in the future. We need to get the right person, and that's why we need to have interested councillors on it. Now, councillors, in my view, if you're not on the CEO Performance Review Committee, as a councillor, you're entitled to attend as an observer and you're entitled to see all the documents. But it would be so much better if councillors were just asked if they were interested to participate, put their hand up and have a voting participation. So that is the other reason. It's not, as I said before, it's not confidential. Councillors, we have to get the right CEO for this point in time that is going to do the right job to address the issues that we're facing, which are quite substantial. So, councillors, I think we need all the best minds on that panel. So I think if somebody wants to put their hand up and participate, it's a good thing. And if we're going to restrict it to a small group, it's going to raise more red flags out there in community land, and we've had a few of those recently. So, councillors, I urge you to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against the motion? Councillor Congleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, there is ample opportunity for the councillors to be engaged in the process. The flow chart indicates that engagement structure. And I don't believe there needs to be any further councillors added to the performance review selection panel, because it ultimately comes back in two parts. One, the HR consultants are brought back to council to proceed to authorise one or the other, or none, and send it back out. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, when the CLO's shortlisted applicants, that also comes to council for council to talk to the prospective applicants and then make an opinion of where they are.
Thank you. Speak for the motion. Councillor Kiley.
The amendment is that we're arguing
Talking
here?
about an amendment, yes.
Councillors, this should be a given that we all should partake or be able to partake in the decision making or the recruitment of recruitment and selection to form a short list of candidates for the CEO. I point you to section 2.10 of the Local Government Act and sections 5.36 of the Local Government Act, where it says throughout that the council should be, it refers to the council, and I gather that refers to, or you would assume that refers to the whole of the council and not just a committee within the council. I'll read that out. 2.10D participates in the local government's decision making. This is the role of a councillor. Participates in the local government's decision making processes at council and committee meetings. 5.361A, a local government is to employ a person to be the CEO of the local government, and 5.36 goes on. It talks about the process that should be employed by council. It doesn't refer to a CEO performance review committee. It talks about the council. And to go to Councillor Johnson's point, this is an important decision that we as a council must make. And Councillor Congdon's motion, all it will do is it will potentially set a group of councillors against the new CEO. I'm sorry to say that, whoever that might be.
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
Yes, Councillor McCulloch, your point of order.
I'm sorry, but with that comment and previous comments from Councillor Johnson's debate...
Just hang on. I just make the point. Your point of order here is against comments made by Councillor Kiley.
Yeah.
Not anything Councillor Johnson.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, yeah, Councillor Kiley, in relation to that, I take offence at that, and I don't believe it's appropriate as part of this debate.
Hang on a sec. If I understand, the point you're making is that the comment made by Councillor Kiley that the process will set part of council against chosen CEO. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I believe, in effect, it's probably more akin to a threat.
Okay, well, I don't believe that to be the case. But I think, Councillor Kiley, I think where the point of order might have just lost in translation is that the comment you made about councillors being set against the CEO, I will remind you that when we get down to a set of preferred candidates, council as a whole will make that decision on who the successful CEO is, not any panel. So if you'd like to continue.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll resume on that point that I do believe that this process that Councillor Congdon is proposing can potentially set a group of councillors against the newly appointed CEO. I don't find that in any way wrong. It's just a matter of fact that if you're going to go down the path of only letting a small group of councillors choose a short list, the new CEO, then you are potentially setting up a situation where we appoint a new CEO from a short list, and he or she does not have the confidence of a significant number of councillors. That's just a fact, councillors. We all need to feel safe in the selection process. We all need to feel safe in the appointment of a new CEO. As Councillor Catalano said, we have to put we have to go through a rigorous process whereby we appoint a new CEO and that has the support of the whole council and not just a small group. There is a potential, and I'm just saying it's a potential, that a cohort of councillors might be unhappy with the process being put forward by the CEO's Performance Review Committee. And as Councillor Catalano pointed out, it is not the CEO's Performance and Recruitment Committee, it's the Performance Review Committee. I don't think it has the remit or the mandate to go ahead and do the recruitment process. So I suggest we support Councillor Catalano's amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against the motion, Councillor McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I find a great parallel between this particular motion and the activities of the Tender Review Committee. Basically what happens is this council appoints people to various committees. Take the Tender Review Committee. Tender Review Committee then listen to what the staff consider and the work that the staff put in to various jobs and various contracts, etc. We have the faith and we have the, I suppose, the respect that they're going to do a good job. That is where it starts. Whoever we appoint for any committee, whether it is the LDMC or the EMRC or any of those committees that we appoint, we have to have faith that those people will do the job that we appoint them to do and that they will reflect the decisions of this particular council. So with regard to the performance review, the Performance Review Committee, in my view, are the only committee that has experience in how the CEO actually, not the character of the CEO, not the person, but the actual job CEO performs, how it goes from point A to point B. And they're the only committee that actually know the details of that performance, of how it happens. They then come back and ask us to actually tick off the decisions from the point of view of making those decisions. So let's have the respect for them to actually do the job and bring it back to us to make a decision on whatever panel or whatever person that they recommend. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McNamara. Any speaker for the motion? Any further speakers for or against the motion? Councillor Lucas.
As succinctly as I can, the selection panel has no delegated authority, and that's a big difference between the Tender Review Committee where they do. Based on Councillor Kiley's debate, from what I heard, my understanding is that any candidate would be unsuitable to some councillors. We even have to go bring the selection process just for the advertisement back to council, for the position description, the selection criteria, the assessment method of assessing the applications, and the draft advertisement for the position must be approved by full council. If you're not happy about that, then we can debate it at the time. Everything that is going to be discussed about the new CEO, whoever that may be, will be a decision of this full council. So every councillor will have input. As I said, I just can't fathom the fact that people are already saying the new CEO is going to be unsuitable to some councillors. That's just pie in the sky to me, and I can't accept the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Question.
Question, Mayor. I'm just interested in the Councillor Lucas's point that it doesn't have delegated authority. Therefore, if the CEO's Performance Review Committee was to select a shortlist, would that then be made available to, so do we get to look at those who didn't make the shortlist? That's my point.
Yes, in the process, if you read it, Councillor Kiley, the shortlist applications, the applications will be assessed against the council Sorry, I better turn my microphone on. Shortlist applicants. Applications are assessed against the council approved, not the selection committee, but the council approved assessment framework. Applications are then shortlisted, and the shortlist is approved by council. Not the panel, the council.
There you go.
But I don't think that answers my question in respect of do the rest of council have the opportunity to look at those candidates who didn't make the shortlist?
Well, my answer would be that in that answer there given by the Deputy Mayor, that the applicants, and there could be 20, are selected and assessed against the criteria that this council sets. And in any application process, whether it be a tender or employment process, there will be those that don't meet the criteria. And bear in mind, we will be working with a highly qualified professional recruiter who works in this field. That's why we will go out to expression of interest. And they will also help guide us in those ones that make the criteria. Because there will be people that will not fit the bill anywhere that will apply for the position. So, okay. Councillor Johnson, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I've got a question, Mr Mayor. I just want to verify what I mentioned earlier in my speech. Is it possible for a councillor, any of our councillors, to participate in the recruitment and selection panel as a non-voting member, as an observer?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to get some advice from the legal in terms of what the criteria is, because bear in mind, to a fair extent, the applications made will remain confidential until some point where they come here and become public. Because what you need to be mindful of, I would suggest all of these people are still currently employed and possibly by another local government, and I'm sure that they would like their application kept confidential to as many people as possible prior to the point where they are down to the last chance of being selected, because that could have serious repercussions for them in their current employment. So while I understand what you're saying, but I'd suggest that we might get some legal advice at a future point. We don't need to make that decision right at this moment.
As long as we get some legal advice on that
point. It's a very sensitive issue,
Thank you.
And I do remember from 2006 going through this process. Okay. So any further speakers? Councillor Catalano, if you'd like to use your time for 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Yes, thank you. Look, I just haven't heard any good reasons as to why interested councillors can't be included with the current members of the the CEO Performance Review Committee, to take part in this process. I don't have a problem with the the current CEO Performance Review Committee taking part in it. I don't have any problem with that. I trust what they do, but I think that there are other councillors that would also like to be involved, because other councillors just want to be involved in the process to reassure, to be reassured that the process is and also to give their input, to reassure that the process is going to be reflect the diversity of views of council, but also the diversity of views of our ratepayers, but also that their input, which is valuable, can actually contribute to the recruitment process. I just don't. There has not been any good reason here tonight why interested councillors who have as good qualifications as those currently on the CEO Performance Review Committee can't be included. There's no good reason. I mean, they're councillors, just like those on that committee are councillors. They've got qualifications, they've got views, they represent ratepayers, they're elected members, they want to be involved. So where's the problem? Why can't this amendment go through? I haven't heard anyone give me a good reason why there's a problem with that. We are all equals on this council. And as equals, if somebody wants to contribute to, a councillor wants to contribute to this process, which is actually, yes, a very important process.
Councillor, 1 minute.
Then where's the good reason? I haven't heard it tonight. I think that we need to make sure that all councillors feel safe, and I agree with that. And we should also not be afraid to have interested councillors give their views and their input. What is the problem with it, councillors? I haven't heard any good reasons here tonight. I don't have a problem with any of the members of the current Performance Review Committee being on that panel, so why would they have a problem with any other interested councillors also being involved in that recruitment process, which we all have agreed on is a very important recruitment process. We do need to get the right CEO for our city.
Thank you, Councillor. That's your 3 minutes. Okay. Councillor support now the vote. Those in favour of the amendment? 3. Those against? Is the rest? Motion is lost. Go back to the original motion from Councillor Congerton. I have a mover and I have a seconder. Is anyone against? There is. Wish to debate it, councillors? Yes. Given you've already pretty much debated it. Councillor Congerton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll keep it short. There is nothing wrong with our community talking to the elected members, putting a point of view across in relation to the advertising component. Council ultimately decides what goes in that advertising literature. The same thing applies when the HR consultant selection happens. Council will get engaged in the selection. The shortlisting of applicants also comes back to Council for Council to determine whom we not engage as our new CEO. I would not like to put parameters around a CEO, but whether he's pro-Midland, pro-Whiteman, pro-Ellenbrook, anti-Midland, anti-Ellenbrook or whatever, the CEO, through the process of the HR consultant, will weed out the best applicants. So from that perspective, the council is engaged along the way in the process. And it is not a situation where the review panel decide the applicant in respect to the HR consultant, does not decide the CEO applicant. It is council, council, council.
Thank you. Councillor Lucas is the seconder.
There's not really much more to say. I've said most of it in my previous debate on the amendment, but everything will be up to a council resolution where every councillor will have the say on the preparation of the advertisement, preparation of the shortlist or the selection of the shortlist, and finally the council will be involved in the interviews of the shortlisted applicants, and council will approve the final applicant to the position of CEO. There's not much more to say. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. Now, speakers against the motion. And I will ask you, councillors, don't go repeating the same rhetoric you used in the previous debate on the amendment. I would expect you to add something new. Otherwise, you're just getting repetitive, and I will call you to order.
It's something new, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillors, all councillors are equal in their rights to view confidential information. There are no councillors here who are somehow special or more privileged than others. We're all equal in that respect. And the second point I've got is, if, as we've heard both speakers so far say, council will be engaged all the way through, well, why not engage council all the way through by letting those interested councillors participate in the recruitment and selection panel? Now, councillors who are supporting this motion, like it or not, all councillors are, as the advice I've had previously, able to attend the recruitment and selection panel, and they're entitled to listen in, they're entitled to view all the documents. If there's any voting, they can't vote, but why exclude councillors from it, and why vote as a block in the way you have? It's a little bit strange, and people are watching this and they're wanting to know why. So, councillors, I'd urge you not to support this. In fact, I'd urge you, councillors, to give due consideration to my motion, which is to defer it, so we could have time to actually think about this. 3 days' notice is not enough, and it appears that we are deliberately excluding one group of councillors by restricting this recruitment and selection panel to a CEO performance review committee that was selected for a different reason. So, councillors, I really do think this is the wrong motion and it is sending the wrong message. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Speaker for the motion. Speaker against the motion. Something new, Councillor Kiley? I hope.
I need to reiterate, Mayor, the Local Government Act 2.10 and 5.36, I believe this motion is contrary to the Local Government Act in respect of allowing all council to participate in the selection of the new CEO. I will seek staff advice on that during the week if that's possible, and regardless of the outcome of this motion, I make you all aware of Animal Farm quote that some animals on the farm were all equal, but some animals are more equal than others, and it looks like we've got this situation here where some councillors seem to think that they're more equal than other councillors.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
I
Yes.
object to that statement.
It's
I take your point of order. I see you get a point. So, Councillor Kiley, if you can't act anything meaningful, I'll ask you to resume your seat. Well, don't go down the same line again, Councillor.
Point of order,
I'm
Mr.
warning you,
Mayor.
so- What's your point of order?
My point of order, Mr. Mayor, is about this process for raising points of order. If we look in our meeting procedures local law, it says that a member raising 5.3.3, a member raising a point of order shall state exactly what the point of order is, and in the case of subclause 5.2.1, that is the reason for raising a point of order, the member must state the provision believed to be breached. Now, we've had a few points of order raised tonight, and on no occasion has a councillor explained what the point of order is. So that needs to come first, then you state it. I don't think any of the points of order I've heard have actually been points of order. So maybe we need a briefing on points of order. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I would acknowledge Councillor Congan.
well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and unfortunately, I didn't even get the opportunity to raise my point of order because I was shut down, Councillor Johnson. So my point of order is, Mr. Mayor, the reference to animals and the structure of intelligence, to me, is just it's something that shouldn't be raised in the council. There should be the respect there. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Congan.
Mr. Mayor, question again. So what sort of point of order is that? It's
Well,
not.
obviously, Councillor Congan feels the comment is an insult.
But
And
which
I would
one
go
is it?
I would go back to our code of conduct that stresses you would treat everybody with respect in this and not make comments in regards who thinks they're better than everybody else. So, Councillor Kyle, I'll ask you to resume your debate if you actually have something constructive to add.
I'll finish if I could, Mayor, and apologise if councillors have taken offence at that. I was simply quoting a George Orwell book, Animal Farm, in respect to this debate. That's all I was doing. As Councillor Johnson said, and Councillor Lucas pointed out, that we're all going to be involved in this process through the shortlisting, and we're going to be involved. He assured us we would all be involved in the process from start to finish. Well, why do we have to have this amendment which ensures that only the CEO's Performance Review Committee gets to shortlist the applicants? I'd like this removed, and I'd like all councillors to be involved in the process because it's in the interests of our ratepayers that we are all comfortable, as elected members, we are all comfortable with the choice of the new CEO from the very start of the recruitment process to the very end. So that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coley. Speaker for the motion? Any speakers against the motion? Councillor Catalano, I'll ask you again.
Oh, yes,
Not
thanks.
to be
You don't have to
repetitive.
repeat yourself. I've heard it first time.
Okay.
Look, there may be ample opportunity for councillors to be involved in this process, but that is not full opportunity for interested councillors to be involved in this process. There is a difference between ample and full. And that is where the difference and that's where the inequality lies. because currently only those councillors on the CEO Performance Review Committee have full involvement, whereas there's other councillors who would like to be fully involved, who are being restricted out of it and only given ample opportunity to be involved. In fact, I'm not asking for the process to be restricted. I'm asking for it to be opened up. No restrictions. Asking for it to be opened up in the interests of equality and not be restricted to certain councillors who are on this Performance Review Committee. And once again, I want to stress, I still haven't heard any good reason from Council as to why this panel, this recruitment panel, has to be restricted to the current members of the CEO Performance Review Committee.
Thank you, councillors. Any further speakers for or against? I'll arise on this occasion. And I just want to briefly say, one key point we're talking about, picked up here, was the word experienced in recruitment and selection. I'd like to make a point. 3 of the members of the current CEO Performance Review have been through this process before in 2016. So it suggests that there is their experience in the recruitment of a CEO. Furthermore, councillors, we could have 20 applicants to weed through, or more, depending on the local government industry. So what this committee is, that works on an ongoing basis to refine the process of the CEO's performance, will have an ongoing hand in selecting the criteria as we go through, wheat from the chaff, and we'll come to council, the panel will come to council at various stages along the way with a group of contenders. Council will then make a further decision, narrow it down so that when we get down to a point, and I don't want anyone out there listening to be confused, that the panel will not make any selection of the CEO. It will be this full council that will consider a shortlist, and from that shortlist we'll go to interviews by this full council to select the CEO at the end of the day. So when we talk about who and what is experienced, I'll like to reiterate that 3 members of that panel have already gone through this process and are extensive in experience in doing that. On that, Councillor Congdon, I'll ask you to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. I don't wish to discuss it anymore. Put it to the vote, please.
Thank you. On that basis, those in favour? Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those against is 3. The motion is carried. Now that takes us to the confidential items. So I need a motion to go behind closed doors. Moved Councillor Parry, seconded Councillor McCulloch.